Did it happen during the day or was it super quick? I woke up, I messaged her, and then I could tell something was wrong. So I FaceTimed, and that's when she said, we can't be together anymore. I feel like you have a history of people being messed up to you when things end, whether it's friendship with Alexis. That's definitely something like I've noticed too. We talked all day, every day. Like, I was her person, she was my person. And you guys think that I don't have any tea on her? Come on!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good wherever you are. I'm your host, That Lit Astro Chick, the channel where we discuss the natal charts of writers, artists, and anybody else that I find interesting. So, fun fact about me. I have followed the girl world corner of the internet for more than 5 years. I am embarrassed. It is very, very much a guilty pleasure. And one of the locals in the space is named Amberlynn Reid. She initially started her channel as a weight loss channel, and then she tapped into the algorithm and found that she was able to make a lot of money full time off of this particular corner of YouTube. She developed a hate following, and unfortunately, she did not lose the weight. In fact, she gained 200 more pounds, I believe. And she documents her life online for all to see, regarding her life, what she eats, her eat with me's, her mukbangs, her hauls. Overall, it's her consumerism and her consumption. And she recently popped up on my feed again because she had another breakup that has gone awry. And I've always wanted to contribute to this little corner of YouTube because commentary is my favorite genre when it comes to videos that I like to watch. However, I am not a commentary channel. I do astrology here because it's fun. It's something that takes me away from what my normal day-to-day is. So I decided my way of contributing to this corner would be to run a natal chart on Amberlynn Reid. So without further ado, I am going to analyze the natal chart of YouTube personality Amberlynn Reid per the information that I was able to find on the internet. So according to the internet and what I have, I might come back and redo this natal chart if it's outdated or inaccurate. But what I found was that Amberlynn Reid was born on December 27th, 1990 in Key West, Florida, United States. Don't have the birth time, so I just used a placeholder. So for Amberlynn, this would make her a hardcore Capricorn. So she has a Capricorn stellium. Her sun and her Venus are her sun, Venus, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are all in Capricorn. And in addition to that, her North Node is in Capricorn, which means that Cancer is on her South Node. And her Chiron, which as I've described before as being the Who Hurt You asteroid, is going in opposition of that Capricorn North Node. Now, I thought that this was interesting when it comes to the clip that I just played, as well as Amberlynn's history when it comes to being on YouTube. Now, we all know her as somebody who is soon to be bedbound. It kind of seems like she ate herself to a life-changing surgery. And she's also someone who seems to have a hard time with keeping friends. So like she had some friends before, and with each of her friends, she has had a massive falling out. She also tends to have numerous romantic partners, most likely because they're serving in as caretakers. And she also has fallings out with them. The only one that she has not spoken about has been Wifey/Feline. And I wonder about what their relationship was like, even though I respect Wifey's decision to stay offline. I think that was the smartest thing to do. But here's how it comes into play when it comes to what her nodal axis is. So I like to look at the nodal axis first because it's going to give me the bigger picture of what's going on in somebody's life. It tells me about what the conditions are like in the world when these souls are born into it. The nodal axis will last for about every 18 months and then it switches backwards. So for people who have the nodal axes of Capricorn and Cancer, particularly with Capricorn on the north, these can be people who can have a very strong aversion to discomfort. The north and south nodes, one interpretation could be this could have had something to do with how you passed away in a previous life. So if it was something like a Cancer south node, these are people who could have potentially passed away from having an accident in their home, or they could have passed away with a loved one in the home. And I say that because when it comes to Amberlynn, she has a lot of massive issues when it comes to her public persona as well as her private image. She is somebody who does not like being comfortable who does not like being uncomfortable. And that can be displayed when it comes to a lot of the ways that she tries to arrange her life. However, because Capricorn is on her north node, what she's supposed to learn this time is to not rely on people so much. She's supposed to learn how to exercise having boundaries with herself as well as with other people. She is supposed to learn how to make decisions for herself as well as how to appropriately interact when it comes to the public as well as developing what her public image is. Watching Amberlynn Reid over the years, I could say she is definitely someone who is very much into that Cancer South Node bag. And I say that because while I don't really hear her discuss her childhood that much, so I know that she was displaced from her home and she was moved around in foster care a lot, that those early childhood memories had a very strong impact on her and who she is. There can be a lot of romanticization of the past when it comes to people who have that Capricorn Cancer nodal axes. This could also refer to a lot of the issues that she has with food, because we've seen from a lot of the content regarding what she tends to eat and how she tends to eat that she has enormous issues when it comes to food. This is not in any way to mean to be triggering or fat phobic, but she could not get the size that she is without eating copious quantities of food. This also could deal with her issues around dependency. So, for example, Amberlynn doesn't drive, so she has to rely on somebody else to drive her. When she was with Beck, who was her... Beck was about 2 or 3 partners ago. They had to drive her everywhere. Her mother had to drive her across states in order to go and see Tommy, which was the most recent girlfriend that broke up with her. This would most likely mean that she would be very uncomfortable being out in public. Even though in this lifetime, she's supposed to learn how to master that and not rely on people so much. Because as a lot of the times, as people have seen throughout the years and they have criticized her for, is that she tends to resort to rather passive-aggressive, manipulative, even in some ways we could say abusive tactics in order to keep people to stay close to her. This is the reason why she tends to rely on other people, such as her friends and her romantic partners, in order to soothe herself. But she's doing it in a way that is very immature. So something that I know that has come up with Amberlynn across various relationships is that she needs to have somebody sleep in the bed with her. So even though she might break up with girlfriends, she will still expect them to sleep in the bed with her because she cannot sleep alone. She is someone who has a hard time with being alone, even though in this lifetime she's supposed to learn how to be alone. She is supposed to learn how to conduct herself in a way to where she is making the best decisions as far as what is going to be for herself. She's also supposed to be more concerned about her finances, so getting it out of the mud on her own. Capricorn tends to be one of the signs that deals with a business mogul, as opposed to Cancer, which is much more about acquiring resources and acquiring possessions. And she tends to hold on to a lot of possessions, and we can see this in her hauls. So, for example, her journal hauls, her clothing hauls, as well as when she buys little trinkets and headbands. And she does make good money from YouTube, from what I understand, and she could actually be doing more with that money. But it's the way that she has gone about acquiring that money and that hate following, which is going to cause an issue with her when it comes to her public persona, as well as putting that on blast. So I did actually want to talk a lot about what was going on in between that north and south node. Because when I think about that Cancer North Node, she is someone who is very, very much living within that bag. Some other things that I notice when it comes to having all of this Capricorn energy is that it could make her someone who might be very, very underdeveloped when it comes to what her nodal status is going to be, but she's going to be dealing with this a lot. And I say that because when somebody has like a sign of their North Node, that's like in their big six as far as their planets go, it can represent an overabundance of these issues that might come forth because they're just going to be dealing with it all the time. It's just going to be so much. So when I look at that, I do now start to see that. So some planetary examples I can look at is the fact that she has her sun at the 5th degree of Capricorn. So that could produce an overabundance because the number 5, it deals with Jupiter. It expands things. It makes things larger. That is conjunct with her Uranus and her Neptune. And both of those are in Capricorn. Now, the Sun-Uranus conjunction could deal with her having a lot of issues with control, especially when it comes to her partners. She might be someone who, or I would say she is, based on her digital footprint. She is somebody who tends to need to have a lot of control in her relationships, and she will have requests or requirements that can be very willful and that can be very unreasonable. Beck has talked about this on their channel, as well as previous exes have discussed Amberlynn when it comes to the tantrums that she throws in order to get things, as well as her constant need to want to lecture. And I would say that the lecturing, that to me comes across as being more like Capricorn, because Capricorn energy, that's ruled by Saturn, that deals with all the 10th house matters. So when it comes to Capricorns, they do tend to lecture a lot, and that is definitely something that I see in Amberlynn Reid. Also, that Sun-Neptune conjunction, that could deal with someone who can be very insecure, and they will want to express those insecurities in a way that will be deemed as being kind of inappropriate. So having a Sun-Neptune conjunction, these can be individuals who may need a lot of help at some point in their lives. It will be all-consuming because it's all mixed up in with that part of their ego. So the Sun deals with the 5th house, which deals with your ego. To kind of have that as a conjunction in Neptune, that's going to be dealing with somebody where they'll be very insecure about who they are. So it's always going to be about putting a good face on. The other thing that I notice when it comes to that Sun-Neptune conjunction is that this could possibly give her issues when it comes to substance use. Now, I know that Amberlynn Reid, for the most part, she doesn't drink and she doesn't do drugs, but this could have something to do with why she has a lot of issues when it comes to food, in particular. And now the orb is too wide, but I will say the fact that the Neptune and Chiron oppose each other, that could have something to do with why she has so many issues when it comes to her food. So I did want to point that out, is that she could possibly have a lot of insecurities, a lot of issues where she will try to put a good face on and also test people, because Capricorn deals with testing people, or I should say just tests in general. And with this Capricorn North Node, what she's supposed to learn how to do is to be tested in this lifetime. She's going to have a lot of issues or lessons that are tied in with karma, a lot of very harsh lessons. And I think that we see that when it comes to her constantly getting put on blast, especially recently, when it comes to the relationships that she has had with other people. So Tommy's the most recent one. I kind of feel like by maybe March 15th, maybe early tax season, she's going to get a new one. So I do agree with Charlie with that one, because Amberlynn is also someone who cannot stay single, even though in this lifetime she is in fact supposed to get used to being more alone. All right, so some other aspects that I noticed, having that Mercury at the 27th degree of Sagittarius, that's going to be in its detriment. So she could possibly be very high-minded, but also TMI. So to tell a lot of inappropriate things that people most likely don't really need to know about her. And I do think that that's something that's definitely a big part of her life. The other thing that I noticed is that with this Saturn and North Node conjunction, because her Saturn is also in the 29th degree of Capricorn, sorry, her Saturn is in the 25th degree of Capricorn, tell a lie, is the fact that she may have a possibility of getting better with this at time, or I should say throughout time, and that from a previous past life, this could have been a lesson that she was supposed to learn, and perhaps she didn't learn it. I wouldn't be surprised at that because of the excess that we see with her now. Another interesting aspect I would say that could also possibly contribute to her weight is that her moon, which is in Taurus, it squares her Jupiter, which is at the 12th degree of Leo. Typically speaking, when people have a moon square Jupiter, which I, by the way, have this in my chart as well, this usually deals with people who are going to be living in houses that might be a little bit smaller, that might have issues with their weight and their weight struggles. They might struggle when it comes to how they might appear, when it comes to like socializing with other people, as well as having different beliefs that are passed down to you that you may have to let go of at some point. And I definitely do see that when it comes to her living with her mother again, especially because her mother wasn't in the first part of her life. There might be some beliefs that she may have to let go of in order to stay. Another aspect is that she has her moon. Now that is trining her Neptune. That's actually a really good aspect to make her more creative of a person. I know that we tend to like to joke around, or Girl World jokes around about how she's really into journaling and scrapbooking and coloring, but she's actually not that artistic, or that she likes to say that she reads a lot and that she may not read a lot. This would be a good aspect to say that she most likely could be somebody where reading could be really beneficial to her, or artwork, if she took it seriously, could actually be very beneficial to her. Another aspect that I wanted to talk about is that her Mars, which is at the 27th degree of Taurus, that is running in opposition to her Pluto, which is at the 19th degree of Scorpio. Now, the reason why this is really significant to me is because it does say something in terms of what she could have endured, especially when it came to her past and growing up. I know that for people where they have Mars and negative aspects to Pluto in their chart, these could be people who could have been abused or harmed, especially as children. This also could be an ongoing issue to where the person that she wants to be, which would be this Taurus Mars, is going to be running in opposition to what her generation is doing, which is going to be that Scorpio Pluto. I'd also say because having Mars in Taurus, and Mars is fallen when it's in Taurus. These could be individuals who could be very possessive, who could be very conservative. This also could maybe point to the interest in food. That's going to be one of them. Or having a lot of conflicts that are surrounding food, surrounding possessions. This is the reason as to why I could see why she gets kind of criticized for her torrid hauls and her eat with me's and her mukbangs. Oh, that actually could be the Mars Pluto opposition there as well, because a lot of people have put her on blast for the way that she is like curating and collecting things, such as the torrid hauls and the journals and the coloring books and the hair accessories and the chokers, yada 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 yada. So somebody's always going to have something to say about this, unfortunately. Now, I didn't want to make this too long, so I think that this is actually where I am going to stop. There is actually a lot more that I could say about her chart, and I would be more than happy to do a second round, but my melatonin is about to hit. I'm an old lady and I need to sleep. But I did just want to go ahead and take a look at her chart, so I think that this is where I'm going to wrap up. This now concludes the reading of YouTuber and Girl World boss babe Amberlynn Reid. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.